The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard Level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a Level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's United Chargers. Well, hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It is Friday, May 30th, and this is episode 90. On today's show, we're talking about Tesla testing driverless cars already on public roads. The BMW i4 gets better, more power, more range, and Kia's EV9 gets cheaper for the new model year. And of course, much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the incomparable Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And we also have Dominic Yoni, longtime EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. It's great for me to be back after a week in a cabin in the forest, getting about on an e-bike all of last week, towing the two kiddos on a little bike trailer. So I was going to say I got some exercise in last week, but I didn't because the batteries did all the hard work. But I was still on EV power last week, just two wheels. Well, technically four, because the kids had two wheels of the trailer.
So Martin, on your little vacation, I saw you had a trailer behind your Polestar too. How'd that go?
Yeah, the Polestar tows pretty well. I bought the Polestar from auction, and the tow bar, which is a factory fit option, so it's the one with the button inside the boot and just pops out and drops down and clicks into place, was a bonus. It was a surprise. I didn't know it came with the tow bar when I bought the car because it wasn't in the pictures, and I bought it, like I say, at auctions. And so when I saw it had one, was absolutely delighted. So yeah, we hired a camping trailer, which is about as wide, a little bit more narrow than the car. So really easy to tow, not particularly wide, but it meant that we're away for the week. Like I say, my UK listeners, my European listeners will know Centre Parks. They have them on mainland Europe as well. And it's the kind of holiday vacation where you drive in and unload all of your stuff into a cabin or a lodge, but then you have to take your car all the way out of the site. You can't have cars moving around inside the site. It's all forestry and things like that. For the duration, you have like changeover days. And so, yeah, Polestar towed really well. We got everything in the back. And honestly, without doing some empirical research of the level that Tom does, which is far beyond me anyway, I didn't even notice a range hit because obviously this thing is only about as high as the boot lid anyway. It wasn't a tall trailer. And so it was about an hour and a half away from the house and didn't really notice. Apparently, the Polestar software, when you connect the factory fit tow bar and stuff, when you connect it all up, apparently the Polestar software does make some allowances. I didn't see anything different. It didn't give me, apart from when you first plug it in, it says, do you want to do a light check on the dash? And on the steering wheel, you can say yes or no, and you can jump out and check all the lights. Apart from that, I didn't see anything different, apart from the range number coming down when I plugged it in, which might be the only thing that it is. So yeah, it was a good experience towing with that. No problems at all, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sold on a trailer, but we haven't got anywhere to stick one. So we don't live. I'm not going to have land where I live to start having stuff in storage. But there we go.
Right. So you just rent a trailer for this kind of a deal?
Yeah, just for a couple of weeks, and
that's probably cheap, right?
Yeah, very useful as well. Got some DIY stuff in the back of it as well, a cement mixer and a few bits and bobs I need for laying a patio in the garden, which is all on the to-do list and not been done yet. So, but was all very nice. So on holiday, I did park next to a Polestar 4 So I was able to compare the dimensions old and new because I've got a 2020 plate Polestar, the original launch spec, with the old before the refresh look. And really interesting to see them next to each other, how the Polestar 4 has been smoothed off, let's say it. There's not as many angles. I mean, the Polestar 2 is a pretty old car now. It was really meant to be a Volvo anyway. So it looks like a Volvo XC40 that's been sat on. And I was surprised in the flesh looking at all the little tiny details of the two cars next to each other, the kind of creases and stuff on the Polestar 2. How a lot of that has all been sort of smoothed out on the 4. Now, the 4 is not a direct replacement to the 2, but yeah, I parked next to one of those and of course, got massive envy of things that I would like but can't afford. So it was very nice to see one in the flesh and park next to one as well. I should have sent you a picture, but there we go. So it's good fun. Missed you guys last week, and who am I kidding? I was on holiday. I didn't miss you at all. Before we get into the news, Tom, you are in something really special this week. You are in a Porsche Macan. What spec do you have? How do you like it?
Yeah, so I asked Porsche for the longest range spec, rear wheel drive, 20-inch aero wheels, least, fun, if you want to say, the lowest horsepower or so forth. But I want to do range and charge testing. It has the same battery as the other versions of the Macan, so for charging, that won't matter. But the range test, do the 70-mile-an-hour range test I wanted to do. I also wanted to compare. Every now and then when I do the 70-mile-an-hour range tests, I'll take the vehicle the next day and repeat it on the same course in the same conditions at 80 miles an hour. And I like to talk about the difference in speed and how much of a penalty that makes when you just go 10 miles an hour faster. So I was able to do that with this, but I didn't do the 80-mile-an-hour drive because I've just been so busy this week doing so many things. So you guys know Pete Bremy. He's typically in the comments. He's not here today because he has some things going on. I gave Pete the vehicle. I got him approved to be on the loaner list from
Nice.
you got to send your license and all that stuff. So Pete agreed. He's like, sure, you could pay me to drive a Porsche 80 miles an hour for 5 hours. So I did the 70-mile-an-hour range test. I will tell you the results of that. 345. Fantastic.
Ooh.
And the EPA range rating on it is 315. So blew by the EPA range. Porsche always does that. The vehicles always go further than the EPA range rating. And then Pete took it the next day. He actually had to drive it overnight because you can't average 80 miles an hour here in New Jersey on any road during the day ever. With the amount of traffic and everything. So he was a trooper. He took it and did it an overnight drive, so the roads would be clear enough to average 80 miles an hour. And I'll post the results on that. As you can imagine, it's significantly less, and it really demonstrates, the different. Like if you're in an EV, any EV, and you're at highway speeds and you're worried about getting to your destination, just slow down. It makes such a difference. If you remember, I did it with the Cadillac Lyric last year, and I think there was a 60-mile or 65-mile difference, but just between 70 miles an hour and 80 miles an hour. So it's a big point that I like to drill home, with people. If they complain about range in the winter, particularly, just slow down. You'll get to where you're going. No, you won't get run over. People say, well, if I drive 60 miles an hour, I'll get run off the road. No, you won't. The cars aren't
No.
just, drive 80 miles an hour into, the back of your vehicle. But yeah, I did that. I did some charge testing. The Porsche says that the Macan will charge from 10% to 80% in 21 minutes. And, I tested that out. I did a 0 to 80% charge recording. And then I did 2 0 to 100% charge recordings because it was the beginning of the charge recording on the first time that I did it surprised me, the results for the first 4 or 5 minutes. And I thought there was a problem with the charger or the vehicle, but turns out, no, it's not. It has a very unique initial charging curve, which I'll get into when I do my full charging analysis. It charges very slowly for the first couple of minutes to the point where you think there's something wrong. But then once a little bit of energy gets into the pack, boom, up to 280 kilowatts. But yeah, it was
Mhm.
it surprised me how it initially starts charging. But the thing about that is, I drove them both times down under zero, like to the point where the vehicle almost wouldn't go any farther. So there's no energy in the pack. Almost nobody's going to do that. So very few owners are going to experience what I experienced for the first, say, 3 minutes of charging, where it just, it'll only take like 30 kilowatt until it's got 2 or 3 kilowatt hour in it, and then it boom up to 280. But that's another thing Porsche says. I think they said the max charging is 270 on it, and I regularly pulled 280, 285 even. So that's what Porsche does. Even with their 0 to 60 times, they always say go in this time, and owners report that they can do better. So it's just part of their DNA. Great vehicle. Had a lot of fun with it. Actually, still have it for a few days. The car company, the company that manages the fleet management company, called me and said, "We have a little bit of an issue. We don't have anybody that can come pick it up. Do you mind if you keep it for an extra 3 or 4 days?" And I'm like,
Oh
I
no.
might have to charge you rent to park in my driveway for 3 or 4 days,
Parking.
but we could
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
work that out. So,
Storage.
yeah. And before we jump on to something else, I want to talk about a comment that was in the comment section earlier by Nebula. So Nebula posted a comment. He said, "Are there any Silverado EV owners here in the chat today?" I don't think anybody is, but this is because of a tweet on X. We still call them tweets, right? We don't call them X's.
I think so.
Right?
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
Brandon Flash posted a couple of days ago. He showed a picture of a Silverado EV, a work truck that was it was either just sold out of what's it, rental company fleet. I forget which rental company had it.
Right.
They were renting it out. It was a rental truck, and it either just sold it or it's still in their fleet. And he showed the lifetime efficiency of 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour, and the truck had almost 23,000 miles on it. And I initially said, BS, ain't happening. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. And so Nebula said, well, it's possible because, what if they just drove on back roads and everything? And I think somebody posted it in Silverado EV forums. And then Nebula posted today on X again that, hey, some of the owners think it's possible. I've driven Silverado work truck and the Silverado EV a lot. And, I own a Lightning, which isn't a Silverado, but it's a similarly sized and efficient vehicle. The Silverados are a little bit more efficient. I'll give them that. But I still believe there is no way that our rental vehicles get beat on. Number one, if this was an owner and they showed me the picture and said, look, this is my lifetime, it would be hard for me to believe, but I would believe it. I would say, well, I have no reason to believe you're lying to me. You must, drive with eggs under your shoes so you don't push the accelerator too hard, because I can't. I've driven Silverados a lot, and the EVs, and they're great trucks. Absolutely fantastic trucks. But I have never been able to average, I think, more than 2.7 to 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour over like 1,000 miles, let's say, over a long distance, not down of course, for 15 miles, I could average 5 miles per kilowatt hour. So I just don't know how this, I don't know how the truck, I'm assuming there's a problem with the software, because I've seen that on vehicles. I've gotten not rental, like loaners from the fleet management companies, and looked at the the trip odometer, the lifetime trip, and it's been like 6.3, over 10,000 miles or whatever. I'm like, it's not the case. There's issues with them. So any event, I'd still like to see somebody post a picture of their Silverado EV with 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour lifetime average and over 20,000 miles. I don't think it's possible. Nebula, I call me Doubting Thomas, but I do not think anybody can average that. I don't think I could do if you said, look, I'll give you $1 million. You got to drive this 22,000 miles and you have to average 3.4. I don't think I could physically do that. So we'll see. But I had to mention that because he's in the comment stream here today.
Maybe it was all like city driving, like really slow.
City driving isn't that great when every time you have to take off, you're
Hmm.
pulling 9,000 pounds or
True. There is that.
8,000 pounds. Even if you go nice and easy, it takes a lot of energy to pull that, Dom. And with 20,000 miles, um, they went through the winter. I guess
True.
suppose maybe it was in Florida. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was in an area where it wasn't didn't get very cold. But again, don't forget, I can't underestimate the fact that this was a rental truck. Who, from I think it was a Hertz fleet. Who
Right.
who rents a truck and drives it easy? You rent the truck because you got to go to Home Depot and fill it up with plywood or bags of mulch or cement or whatever.
So
So in any event,
I just
I thought that was interesting.
I just got a text from our friend at Aging Wheels, and he says he has a Silverado, which he has a great video out. Actually, this
Yeah.
I think this last week, within last week and a half or something. Great video. You should check that out. The Aging Wheels channel on YouTube. He says his lifetime efficiency is 1.6 miles per kilowatt
Normal.
hours,
That
over
sounds
8,000
normal.
miles.
Yeah.
Uh,
But he
Silverado
does towing
EV.
too.
4WT, yeah, he does some towing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's so right. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you mentioned Aging Wheels. I had a couple people mention to me that he put my picture in one of his videos like 2 weeks ago when
Okay.
he bought these little like cars that are made out of foam. I forget the name of them, Spiras or Spiras. And
Oh yeah,
he buys these crazy cars and he does great reviews of them. I love it how eloquently he explains what he, is experiencing. He does a really good job at that. And when he's talking about the state of charge meter, he goes, and the state of charge meter doesn't work, and he shows it, and he goes, so I really don't know what my state of charge is. And as he says that, the state of charge meter changes to this picture of me just like this with the state of charge behind me. And so I had people send me messages like, hey, Aging Wheels put like a 0.2 second picture of you in their video. So I messaged him. I was like, how much do I have to pay you so that every time I'm in Aging Wheels, you you post my picture? He's like, just buy these two Spiras from me and we're good.
He's got to
right.
get rid of
Yeah, I
them
think he
now.
wants to
Yeah.
move those along. I thought he
Yeah.
had maybe. I guess he's not like a collector. What's the word? A hoarder.
Yeah.
Like a weird card hoarder. If he wants to move them along, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a
He
great
also
channel. If you guys haven't watched that, anybody in the comment section, check out Aging Wheels on YouTube. He does a really good job over there. It's
yeah, it's like
entertaining, it's fun,
500,000
it's
subscribers or
informative.
something. It's brilliant. It's great.
Yeah.
He's got he bought, talk about crazy things, stuff he's bought, a Robin Reliant. Do you know, did that translate to the US? Do you know what a Robin Reliant is? A
Oh yeah, we know. I
three-wheeler?
mean, I know what it is. We
Yeah,
all watched
right.
Top
I don't know if
Gear
that
back in the
translated or
day.
not. It was an icon over here because it was featured in a TV show called Only Fools and Horses, and it was first out in 1973, and it was made of fiberglass, I think. And you wouldn't want to be in an accident in one. Top Gear used to roll them over and stuff like that. But I think he bought one of those years ago, and yeah, great video series with them. So yeah, go and subscribe. I'm sure people do already. What do we need to talk about first? Stuff that we didn't get to. If you, Greg says, if you do get 3 miles per kilowatt hour on a truck, you're not using it as a truck. Well, yeah, but even so, even if it's totally unladen, you're not getting that. Max Patton, Max in the comments this week as well, says he's got a Polestar 2 Performance. He's got the upgrade. I don't know if he paid for the upgrade or it was what on the motor that he bought. But he's got the top spec one, and you're like 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour on that car, which is ruthlessly inefficient. They have improved it since. Would be good. So on a Silverado, but that's interesting, Tom. You say that you've seen figures that are wrong in the past. We rely on the software that's in vehicles. There's currently, if it's not a class action, there's a big court legal action going through where Tesla owners are claiming that their car came back from service with different mileages. I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't want to get in trouble with Tesla, but and of course we rely on these lines of code. Effectively, it's not like an old odometer that would physically move around. This isn't Ferris Bueller, trying to reverse the car to wind it back. We are relying on software to tell the truth. So I guess, Tom, if you're saying you've seen this spurious number before, that can only be a software fault, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think even on one of my vehicles, I'm trying to remember at some point in the past, it was wrong. It might even have been the Lightning. Like um, a year after I owned it, I monitor my lifetime efficiency. I never reset one of the trips, so I know the lifetime efficiency. And I remember one day, I think it was a Lightning. I'm not 100% sure. I was checking it. I was like, that's way off. Like yesterday it was 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour, and today I looked at it and it was like 3.8 or something ridiculous. And then it corrected itself. I think it was a Lightning. I forget, but it was definitely one of the EVs that I owned. There was some weird glitch at some point where it was way off, but then it fixed itself. So I don't know, but hey, it's a funny thing to talk about. We're going back and forth on X with posts, but I don't believe that. I don't think it's possible, particularly that it's a rental truck. I mean, my lifetime efficiency of my Lightning, again, it's not the same vehicle, but it's a big full-size pickup truck that has similar efficiency. The Silverado is a little bit more efficient, but similar. And it's like 2.2. But I go through the winter and I put winter tires on it. I get it if that wasn't the case on this vehicle, but still being a rental vehicle, man, no way. I don't
No,
believe it.
no way. Which
Nope.
again calls into question the trust that we place in the
Yeah.
software that it says, if that's what it says. So,
Yeah.
So
All
William
right.
says it's legal to change an odometer. Yeah, I'm sure. In
Mm,
pretty much many
yeah.
jurisdictions, wherever you're viewing around the world, I'm sure the odometer is, regulated in some way. I think most countries would have some sort of regulations around,
Yeah.
telling the truth.
Oh, absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
it's,
I,
and if
I,
it's not
wh-
working, that's a Dieselgate all over again.
when I had I had two Honda CRX SIs in the 80s. They were like my favorite cars. I've talked about them here in the podcast before. I put a nitrous oxide
Mm.
kit on one of
Yes.
them. And so the interesting thing about it was the all you had to do was reach under the dashboard, and behind the odometer there were like two clips that you pinched them and you could pull out the speedometer cable, and the speedometer cable did the odometer and the speedometer. And so, not that I would ever do this, but all
No,
I would have to
no.
do is reach under there and unplug the speedometer, if I wanted to for a couple of months, if I knew I was going to be selling it at some point soon. The only problem would be then I wouldn't have a speedometer. But I knew the car so well. I knew in what gear the tack was at. I knew how fast I was going, So, but it was interesting. No computers or anything then. It was just
Right.
reach under the dash and just pinch it, pull it out, and no more miles.
Man,
Yeah.
so I was going to be like a roadie in this little punk band tour back in the 80s, and we rented a van, and they charged by the mile back then, and we were planning on doing like several thousand miles, and we didn't have money really, so we had to get under the car to disconnect the odometer cable, and I think that may have caused a leak in something. There was a I'm not sure. I mean, it was an unsuccessful tour. We were in Canada, and then we drove from like Montreal to like Detroit, Windsor, all the way down. It's like a long drive, 500-600 miles, and then we couldn't get across the border. One of our guys had a record of some kind. I don't know,
Oh, I'm
and they
surprised.
said, no, you're not coming across here, and don't try to go across somewhere else, or we'll put you in jail. So,
Wow.
but yeah, we got it back. We had to kind of reattach the odometer, but I think there was like some fluid of some kind dripping out at that point. It was not great.
You took it back. It was covered in moss, and the tires were bald, and there's dents on the thing, and it's driven like 16 miles. And we're like, yeah, we just went down the road with it. Months later.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What do we need to get to? We need to get to Tom, something that you didn't talk about last week when I wasn't around. You did an Evo Charge Home 50 EV charger, one of your infamous charger reviews. We haven't talked about it yet. How did it stand up to your tests?
It did very well. It's a good option. And the thing is, I have so many chargers here in the garage right now. I'm selecting the ones that I think are going to do well rather than just do all of them, because I can't possibly keep up with them. And the first generation, which you see on the screen right there, I just showed quickly, the first gen Evo Charge was a good unit at a good price. So the new Evo Charge that came out, definitely an upgrade. It has a lot of good features. It performed very well, and it's definitely something that should be considered. It's a good unit at a reasonable price, and it's got a lot of features. So yeah, it's on my recommended list now. It scored well, but I will say, I might have mentioned this. I'm not sure. The chargers are getting so much better. I had to completely redo the scoring system that I call the Charger Rater and make it a lot harder. So if you look
Mm.
at this, and you see the score, I think it got a 79 or 78. Most of the other ones that I've been scoring recently got in the 90s. You'll be like, oh wow, this is really not a great unit. That's not the case. It's just that I had to make the Charger Rater so much harder because the units today are so much better than what they were just 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, there's things I even had to take off the Charger Rater because all the units come with it now, whereas in the past they didn't. So that's good news. The charging equipment you buy today, for the most part, unless you go online and just buy real cheap, no name stuff, the cables are better, they're thinner, they're more flexible, the units have more features. They're all long cables now. When just a couple of years ago, almost none of the cables had a 25-foot cable. A lot of the companies were trying to get away with 18-foot cables, and people were buying them and realizing it didn't reach their charge port, from where they installed it. And like now they almost all have 23 or longer, and the cables are flexible. So they do a really good job. This is a good unit, and it's definitely recommended for $539. It's up to 50 amps, and it's a pretty good solid choice.
Excellent.
Where's it made?
Oh God, the manufacturer, I forget because I think it might
Sorry, I
have
didn't mean
been
to put you on the
USA. It might have
spot.
been that one might have been USA.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget. If you can scroll to the beginning of it, well,
Sure.
if I don't know if you could scroll to the key features.
Key
Because the funny
features.
thing is, I look at so many units now. It should be kind of right in there. Key features
Key
up at the beginning.
features. 50 key features. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just-
US at the bottom. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Sweet. Look at that.
yeah. So
Let's pause that there.
yeah.
There you
So
go.
I mean, it comes with NACS or J1772. You can just adjust the amperage up to 50 amps it can deliver,
Yeah.
which most vehicles are limited to 48, but you can get two more. You could squeeze two more amps in if you really wanted to, as long as you're correctly sized the wire. So yeah, it's a good solid unit. It looks nice too. It's a nice Evo Charge did a good job with it.
Let's have a look at one of the comments. So NB Volk says, "Are your prior tests realigned to the new requirements?" Of course, you can't go back and edit a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Or you can't insert it. So how do you
So
get
yeah,
around that?
so it's tough, Martin. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. I might rescore some of the more popular older reviews I've done, like with the Charger Rater, and I put those on my website, the evchargingstations.com. There's nothing I can do about the YouTube review. I mean, I could do a quick update and make like another video, but what I think I'm going to do is the popular chargers that I've reviewed recently in the last year or two, I'll go back and retest them.
Sure.
And yeah, I do test for heat. I have the units at I put them under a heat lamp here for 4 hours and get them up over 120 degrees and then
Wow.
charge and then charge an EV at maximum power with the heat lamp still on it. They usually get up to like 160, 170 degrees, and I make sure
Wow.
they don't shut off or derate. So yeah, I'm actually doing a review right now of the new Emporia, which
Right.
Emporia makes great units. And they have a new called the Emporia Pro. And one of the really good things about this is it can intelligently manage the load of your house, the load of your house. So if you have, say, 100 amp service and you can't install an EV charger, you can with this unit. It comes with Emporia's View system, which will allow it to balance your home's power. So if your home is taking in more power than what you can then supply the charger, it lowers the charging rate on the charger. So I'm going to have a detailed conversation about that in this review. But this unit here is a game changer for people with 100 amp or 150 amp services in their homes that want to install a high power charger. It will allow you to. I mean, you can have 100. Think about this. You can have a 100 amp main in your house and still charge at 48 amps.
Right.
You could never do that before without doing a service upgrade or installing a meter service collar like the connector that I did that review on. So look out for this review in about a week. This unit here is it's really a game changer, and it's at a really reasonable price, and it does a great job. It has fantastic features. It might be the highest rated charger once everything's done and I figure out the new charger ratings for the old chargers.
Wow. Wow. Okay, we'll watch out for that. Let's get
Yeah.
into the news, a little bit of the stuff that's been going on this week. Sorry, before I start, go on. Oh, sorry, I thought I interrupted someone then. What's happening in the news this week? Well, I suppose we should talk about the Tesla stuff that's been happening this week, because it's a bit of electric stuff because it's Tesla, which is essentially in our ballpark, really. But it's a bit of autonomy as well. So Tesla was set to start its robotaxi service sometime next month, right at the end of May right now as we live stream this next month in Austin in Texas. On Wednesday, Bloomberg reported June 12th, Elon had said that the service would start with about 10 Model Ys driving some easy routes in Austin. Then on Thursday, Elon Musk said on X that Tesla had already begun testing self-driving Model Ys on public streets, that they've had no accidents, and that it was a month ahead of schedule. In the same tweet, he said that Tesla would start self-deliveries from factory to customer next month. He didn't say which models or which factories would be doing this. Dom, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Dominic. I suppose a couple of things going on that we could dive into. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's kind of a surprise actually that you can just like start, throw out cars out there with no drivers in them, and without any special permissions. I guess I've seen the law in Texas, and it allows for that. I guess. But anyway, yeah. So it was kind of a surprise that there was already driverless Teslas out there. I don't think, and usually when stuff like that happens, you see reports on X.com or something, and people will take pictures. They'll see, oh, there's no one in that car, right? But yeah, so that was kind of a surprise. But it's like not open to the public yet. There's no app yet. I think there's going to be a ride hailing app at some point. So this is like just the early beginnings, and he didn't really say if they have how many cars they had operating right now. But before he had previously said that they were going to use like 10 different Model Ys. Of course, there's already a driverless ride-hailing service in Austin, and that's Waymo. So it operates in 6 different cities right now, and it's testing in 7 others right now. It's been operating driverless cars since like 2020, and so it does like about 250,000 autonomous rides a week. So that's some pretty established competition. I mean, the whole technology is still in its infancy. So there's still room for a new player like Tesla to surpass Waymo possibly in the future if its technology is better, and if it can. I don't know. That's the whole question, right? Can Tesla actually do this? Can it succeed at driverless cars? Like that's been the dream, right? Elon said with full self-driving FSD, like my car has, that our cars will be able to go out and make money for us while we sit here and do podcasts and stuff. But
yeah,
so far, I don't think that's not happening. And I don't think my car couldn't do that now. I just did a last weekend. I went to the Florida Folk Festival, so it was like a little mini road trip. And I don't usually use FSD in town so much, but I did try it on the highway. I never tried it on the highway because it was terrible, but it's really improved on the highway. And yeah, and so I would say it works great on the highway, but for me for this time, but with no supervision, I don't know if it's there yet. But luckily they do have supervision, so there's nobody in the car, but they, I believe, do have people like in a warehouse or an office building somewhere, uh, remotely, able to operate the car somehow. Like, I don't know if I guess it can do steering and brake and accelerator inputs. I'm not sure how it would work. I'd like to see that setup though. I'm kind of curious. Waymo does the same thing. So Waymo hasn't had people in their car since I think 2019 or 2020.
Yeah.
But they used to have people in the cars like driving, but now they just have like a remote people. So I'm not really sure how that works, but it'd be kind of interesting to see. In my mind, I envision it like sim racers. You have a little steering wheel and the gas and brake pedals
Yeah,
on the
I think that's
floor.
how it works. Yeah, I think I've seen examples of it done with commercial trucking.
Okay.
It's just like a computer game simulator with someone sitting there. I think sometimes they have controls or a steering wheel and pedals, and pretty analogous to actually sitting in the car surrounded by screens. Of course, you're relying on the 5G being pretty low latency, but it gets you out of, if you are stuck, although I've never, I've seen Waymos get into pretty tight spots and stuff, and they do wedge their way out, backwards and forwards and stuff like that. It's really impressive. I was watching, there's a recent video on James May. I think he's renamed it James May's Planet Gin, which is his thing. But he still does car reviews. And James May spent some time in the US recently and jumped in a Waymo with his producer. And she's completely freaked out. Like, she's saying it's funny because he's a car guy and she's not really into kind of the whole car thing, like the excitement of having a driverless car. So the drama in it, she's freaked out, and it's a great video and it's really well made. And at one point the Waymo is in a pretty tight car park. I think when it picks them up, it's in a pretty tight space, and it does get out. As you say, Dom, 250,000 paid autonomous rides per week, 250,000 paid autonomous rides per week. Started in 2020. I think people kind of forget, if they haven't got Waymo in their city, in one of the 6 cities it operates, then I guess people forget that Waymo is even there, because they got LiDAR, radar, GPS, and Tesla's doing this all with vision only.
Right.
Lots of people have thought on that. So
that's the other interesting matchup, right? Like Waymo uses the full sensor suite, and Tesla's there with just cameras, and pretty much everybody just uses the full sensor suite. Xpeng, they're switching to camera only on their advanced ADAS systems.
Yeah.
But generally it's like a lot of LiDAR and radar and GPS, and so Alhum is saying the tech is in its infancy. Waymo works quite well already, announced in Miami and Atlanta, big markets. It's true, but I think, they still, need remote drivers, basically. So in my mind, I'm thinking eventually we'll get to the place where that won't be necessary. That won't be needed. I don't know how far off that is, but you got to think it's, stuff that seems impossible now, it tends to have a way of becoming possible in the future with technology.
And with the Waymo, it is geofenced, right? It's not a extraordinarily large swath of land, and like that's the whole thing about what Elon had been saying, is that we won't be limited by that because we don't need the geofencing. The vehicle itself figures everything out. In the beginning, it would be, but once we prove that it can work in here, it can work anywhere. And like I think part of his point is that they'd be able to have widespread adoption of it much faster than say a Waymo that would need to go in small chunks of land as the areas get geofenced. So, as they get fully mapped out. But I still don't like, I've driven the not the very latest version, the second to latest version of the Cybertruck with the FSD. Fantastic. Amazing how good it works. But even that, I do have to occasionally take control. Not often. I have to admit, not often. But even that's not good. Yeah, like it can't. If I have the car for a week, a vehicle for a week, and 3 times I have to definitely have an input or there's going to be an issue, that's way too much. maybe 3 times a year you could live with. I don't know. It
Mm,
depends on who you talk to, and I suppose it's going to improve upon it. And then how about the inclement weather? With the camera only, I guess you can't use it in the snow. What happens? You just shut down the cars, like
true.
nobody can get around now. If a lot of people are relying on robo taxis, will there be heaters and stuff to melt the ice or snow on the cameras? In a what if you're out driving in this, and all of a sudden you get a torrential pouring rain and thing can't see? Will all the cars just pull over and stop and wait till the rain stops? Just the, I'd like to hear answers to that stuff where when you have the full suite of sensors,
Mm.
they can function in adverse weather conditions because they're not solely relying on cameras.
Right. I know in my car, I've been driving in like decently heavy rain at night, and with FSD on, and it was doing what it needed to do, but it was slowed down a lot. Like it just like very unsure. I don't know if it's good enough for a commercial application, really, personally. But also I have hardware 3, and in the newer cars have another, newer hardware 4, they call it. So I don't know how much better that is. I'm going to try to do I'm going to try to do a dude loop tomorrow. It's been like a long time since I've put my car through that testing loop I have, and so it's come a long way since the last time too. No nags. I could just like that's the best part really. It's
Yeah.
it's so nice not have to always be tugging on the steering wheel and maybe sometimes accidentally turning off FSD. But
Yeah. So
someone was asking what the point is. Are there Waymos? Are Waymos cheaper than Ubers? Otherwise, what's the point? I just asked AI real quick, and they said it depends on the time of day because I've never really taken a Waymo yet. But it also mentions that you don't have to tip the Waymo, which you might do it on Uber. So that's like one potential savings there. I think mostly though it's just cheaper for the operators. They don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, but they still have to pay a remote person. But I don't know how many cars like a one remote person can handle at a time, though. So that's
But that's
yeah,
now, Dom.
right,
Eventually, the plan is not to have remote operators watching it all, and it would have to be cheaper because, with a human driven Uber, you have the car and the human's time you have to pay for.
right.
With an autonomous vehicle, you just have the vehicles, the labor or use of the vehicle to pay for. Now, yes, those vehicles are going to cost more because of the additional hardware and software that's needed for self-driving tech, but they can amortize that over however long you use a taxi for 3 years, 4 years, whatever that is. So it almost has to cost less. Now, whether the companies will charge you less, that's another story. But the cost to operate, an autonomous vehicle would, as a robo taxi, would be dramatically less. You don't have to pay for the human.
Uh, Andrew says, put a post-it note over the Tesla's front camera and it becomes inoperable. I hadn't thought of that, but I guess if they're only using cameras and the main camera gets blocked. I mean, I know that Tesla lists, because the NHTSA asked Tesla about a month ago to explain to them how they'll handle poor weather conditions, and Tesla lists sunshine as poor weather, because if there's glare on the camera, if it's a nice day out, then they won't work either. And so I'm not sure if they have replied. I haven't seen if there's been an official response to that, but they've asked for some clarification. And of course, coming from this side of the pond, I am absolutely amazed at you guys, because I mean, it's not like I live in Germany, and the Germans do love their rules, and I have a soft spot for that as well, by the way. But the idea that a car company can just stick a bunch of several ton machines on a road with no driver in, be like, yeah, there's a guy sitting back in the office a few hundred miles away. Right, what, on a 5G connection? Okay, like that is just a million miles away from the kind of things that would even be allowed here. So I guess for good and bad. I guess for good and bad. Some might say it's over-regulated and things like that, but I just can't get my head around. It's not a Tesla thing. Like any car company being like, yeah, we did this. Like, what you gonna do? Like, wow, I can't believe that's even allowed under your rules. But heck, That's why you're there and I'm here. Now let's talk a little bit about another new car. We've got lots to talk about. Got Honda Prologue in the news. We've got Kia EV9. We got a new Alpine. What's Alpine, you might say? We'll tell you. I'm sure many people know.
It's not
BMW
Alpine?
first, though. They've updated the i4. And the cars are going to be going into production in July, hitting dealerships very soon. The two lower trims, so that's the way the BMW call it, eDrive for single motor, eDrive 35 and eDrive 40. So they all get silicon carbide power electronics, more efficiency, 13, 14 more miles of range on WLTP. Over here, BMW replacing the M50 with the M60. Now, the M60 gets 56 more horsepower. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Range is 269 miles WLTP. Take a chunk off of that for EPA, of course. And they're increasing their battery warranty coverage too, moving the limits from 10 years and 80,000 miles to 100,000 miles, guaranteeing 70% state of health, or I guess I should say, if it loses over 30% of its original stated capacity. We don't talk about the i4 too much. I love the way that the i4 looks. I know people have thoughts on the way it drives in terms of how good of an EV it is. If you get my drift on that, it's obviously a very good car. But is it a good EV? Can it handle all the things that we throw at it? Dom, what do you think? How do you feel about it?
The i4.
Yeah.
See, I do have some thoughts. I don't know. I've always so yeah. Someone in the comments mentioned that they own one, so I don't want to like, and I haven't driven one yet. So I just I've heard Kyle talk about it, but to me, I've always felt it just a little underwhelming. I mean, I'm not really super drawn to the style, at least in pictures. I think in real life, actually, it's a bit better, but I'm never sure when I see them on the street. I have to like kind of, is that the electric one? Because they have
the point.
So what's that?
That's the point.
Is the point
Right,
of that?
right. I'm never quite sure, but like just looking at it from a stats number, from a numbers point of view, I've always compared this in my mind to the Tesla Model 3, and so it does some things. It has some things I think some people will like more, obviously, than the Tesla Model 3. I think the interior is like more traditional, and people like that. It's so I think it's a decent quality interior. So that's what it's got going for, but the number is just it doesn't touch like acceleration of a Tesla Model 3, like the M50 doesn't. What was it? They're down to like 3.7 seconds now with the M60. So the new one, 0 to 60, 3.7 seconds. I think the Tesla Model 3 is now below 3. It was 3.5 for a while, but the newer one's 2.9 seconds, I believe, or 3.1, in that ballpark. So it's quicker, right? And it's a lot cheaper. It's like, but significantly, like the range. I believe the Tesla Model 3s go from start at 42,490 right now to up to 54,990. BMW i4 is like starts at 54,000, basically goes up to just about 72,000. It's a big chunk of cash, and then the other part of the equation, the performance equation, of course, is like the range and charging. The range, so the top spec gets you 269 WLTP miles, 250 EPA miles for the performance, or for the M60. I'm not sure that's really good enough in 2025, for this kind of a car, at this kind of a price tag.
Yeah, mid 200s isn't a lot, is it?
Sorry?
You talk about the being in the mid 200s.
Yeah.
The price?
I think you meant
range.
I think for the range it's not good.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. For that range, the mid 250, right? It's for up to $72,000. It just, I don't know. It's a hard pill to swallow, really. And yeah, see, I'd like to see Kyle drive these again. So when originally Kyle had driven these, I believe they had some thermal issues too. They kind of they kept derated a little early, I think, for Kyle's taste, which he can hold the accelerator down pretty hard. But he's going to be doing some more track stuff testing pretty soon. And so I'm kind of hoping he gets one back in, because it's been a while and it's a pretty popular car. This is the the i4 is the best-selling BMW EV, which I didn't actually realize in the US and also globally. I'd always expected the iX to kind of do better, but it really has. The iX, I think, is a really underappreciated gem. But Maki Vlog has a good comment here. It says, ignoring the specs on paper, I absolutely love the i4 we tested. It just felt good, although really small inside. So yeah. So for some people, I think they'll really like it. I mean, people do really like the i4.
I
It's
really like
just
it. I really like the i4. How many times do you want to beat the range specs of the best stuff out there if you got a car that you really like and don't need the mileage?
true.
If you enjoy driving the car, I think it looks great. It drives fantastic as well. And apart maybe that last 5% that I can't get to that Kyle can, he can tell the difference. But man, I love the i4. And they're making it better and better all the time. And that's what I love about these cars that are no longer first generation EVs. And we talk about silicon carbide inverters. It's a 4.5% increase across the board on average. And it might not sound like, they're moving heaven and earth to do that. But I love that we're moving away from these first generation EV products now. As EVs mature, they just become a little bit better. These iterative improvements, if that's what you want to call them, they stack, don't they? And I know you're saying, well, mid 200s isn't great for range. I do agree with you on that, because it is an expensive car. But I just think this car, like all of the cars that are moving on and get developed, just get a little bit better all the time. i4, I think, is a great option for so many people. I really, really like this car. Yeah, it is a combustion car at heart, but I like that. I like the fact that it's not just a big iPad and nothing else. It feels like a BMW, which I guess is nice to have that option on the market. So I like this.
I like the i4. I've driven them quite a few times. I'm very comfortable. Love the interior. Dom pointed out earlier how you can't tell. Well, that was the point, Dom. That was BMW didn't want to make a weird mobile. Don't forget their first electric vehicle, the i3, was made to be like, look at me, I'm electric, I'm the future. And BMW got bitten a little bit by that. And so then they came back and said, okay, maybe people don't want to stand out. Maybe they just want to have an electric powertrain. So we're going to make this look like a 4 Series Grand Coupe, and give people an electric option. I think it drives great. It doesn't track well, from talking to Kyle and other people that tracked it. The heavy weight, it just isn't set up properly for that. So maybe this isn't the car that you buy if you want to autocross on weekends. You stick with the combustion BMWs, or you get something else. Comparing it to the Model 3 is a fair comparison, because these are, head-to-head competitors. The Model 3 costs less. The Model 3 is quicker. It probably can track better. But that's not what everybody is looking for. We talk about, you're saying, well, the fastest version of this goes 3.7 seconds, and the Model 3 is under 3 seconds. 95% of the people can't tell the difference between a 0 to 60 launch of 3.7 seconds and 2.9 seconds, Tom. I really don't believe that.
That gap's that's a pretty good gap, though. That's I don't
know. And well, first of all, and how many people launch their cars, consistently 0 to 60 seconds?
Right.
If the car, it's more appropriate for me, like the 30 to 50 and 30 to 60 speed is more important to me, because that's getting out onto the highway and so forth. And even that, a half a second, we would have all freaked out if we could get cars in the 3 seconds 15 years ago, 0 to 60. It would that was Lamborghini speed.
Yeah.
So
right.
we keep pushing the envelope and talking about these speeds, like, well, it only goes 0 to 60 in the 3s. like that's, we've gotten spoiled with this. So as far as I'm concerned, my time driving the i4, xDrive 40 and 50, the M50, I thought they were fine. appropriate for that class of vehicle. They accelerated just fine. Comfort, quietness, they charge okay. Acceptable. The range to me is acceptable also. If for most people that own a BMW, most at least that are buying a 50, 60, $70,000 car, and we'll get to the price in a minute, they have the ability to charge at home. These aren't apartment dwellers that, for the most part, that are living on a tight budget, and you're buying a $70,000 vehicle. So now, you can plug in every night, and even if you charge to 80%, you got over 200 miles of range. How many people do that for, frequently and need that? And when you do need to go beyond 200 miles, let's say at highway range 225, the DC fast charge networks now are getting so much better. They're so much more prevalent, and they're only getting better. So to me, I'm not that worried about it. To me, the range is okay. Would I prefer more? Of course, I'd prefer more. But to me, the range isn't a big impediment for most people. The crazy thing is, to me, it seems like having a long range and fast charging speeds is more important for the smaller, less expensive vehicles, because there's a much greater chance that those people are going to be living in apartments and need to rely on public charging infrastructure more than the people that buy the expensive cars and can plug in every night at home and aren't going to use public infrastructure as much. And that's like the opposite of what we'll get. The more expensive vehicles are going to go farther and charge faster, and it's unfortunate, but the affordable cars are getting longer ranges and faster charging now. So let's circle back to i4. The price is the biggest issue for me when you're going to compare it to a Model 3. The Model 3 does electric things better. Totally agreed. Better software, charges quicker. But the i4, I would buy one in a second, particularly a used one. I mean, you see them now. I think I've seen them for like in the high 30s, like 39,000, 40,000 used. The less expensive models, not the M50. And when you can get one that's a year or two old for 40 grand, I have to consider it. I mean, there's people that want a nice, say, quote unquote, luxurious, comfortable interior. Teslas are Spartan. I mean, they're you get seats and a screen, and
Right.
some people love the minimalistic point of it. That's fine. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a lot of people that want a little more substance in their vehicles. I can go both ways. I can fully enjoy driving my two Model 3s that I had for 3 years. Thought it was great, but I remember distinctly, and I owned my Model 3 when I did the first drive for the i4, and I remember sitting in it for the first time and being like, I miss this, like this, I like this, and it's good that we have options both ways.
True. Nicholas has a good point here. BMW are made for highways and autobahns. I think he's trying to say Tesla always feels less nice to drive like a long day, which that's fair. I think. I mean, yeah, and we have a number of i4 owners in the comments today. Actually, it's pretty cool, and they all seem pretty happy. There's one gentleman has in his name. I'm trying to. It sounds like he may have a whole channel dedicated to his i4.
Yeah, I saw that just flick by quickly on my screen as I try and look down. I read the comments and listen to what you guys are saying at the same time, and he seemed really happy with his as well. Patrick and Liv in the comments as well, saying $499 a month on an i4 lease with $4,000 down. So that's all in the right ballpark for being that kind of vehicle. Yeah, I can't find that comment now that you were saying, Don, but
I can't find it either.
Okay, right.
Comment again, sir.
We know that you're there. We know that you're there. And okay, so let's talk about a little bit of inflation busting that's been going on this week. Then the Kia EV9, another vehicle that's I'm seeing more and more of just driving around, and maybe I'm looking for them because I'm into EVs anyway. But I'm seeing just anecdotally a lot more Kia EV9s on the road now. It's being built in the US, getting cheaper for the 2026 model year in the United States as well. And some trims are actually getting cheaper. Now, the base level keeps the same price. So to get into an EV9, you're staying at the same price of $54,900. But the minute you start looking at the different trims, and this will be a little bit of number wang here, so bear with me, you get $2,000 off the 2025 model year price. So the different specs, light long range is now $57,900. Wind stays the same at $63,900. The land gets a $1,000 trim to $68,900, and the current range topper is the EV9 GT. That is $2,000 off at $71,900. There's also a Nightfall edition for the land trim. Or it has the NACS charge port, of course, already, and the same battery capacity. So the standard range, 76.1 kilowatt hour. The big boy is 99.8. Phew, that was a lot of numbers, but basically, Kia have somehow managed to work out a way to bring those prices down, make it more competitive. EV9 is a fantastic, brilliant vehicle, so distinctive on the road. I love the way it's designed. And fantastic for if you need to move 7 people around, or at least 5 adults and 2 kiddos in the back, not the biggest rear seats, but still a really capable vehicle and a great place to spend some long journeys if you need to, getting even cheaper in the US. That is a good bit of news. We like that. Thank you, Kia. Still the same price to get into one, though, which, like I say, is $54,900 for the light standard range, which may suit you just fine. But still, in inflation-busting terms, that's all very good. Any thoughts on that before I move on to the Prologue, which is another bargain?
I was just going to say that I guess this is what happens when you can bring the production over to the US. So they're building these now just outside of Savannah. And so it's got, I mean, it also has the Tesla, the NACS connector. I think the last model year has it as well, the 2025s. But I think they've only really been producing there for like the last month and a half or so. Yeah, so and it previously, so now it's eligible for the $7,500 rebate as long as that stays in place. And previously, I think Kia was giving you that rebate, but taking it out of their own pockets. So this will be a relief for Kia, at least not have to shell out that extra money, and let the whole our incentive system take over that part for them and keep the prices accessible, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, let me give you another bargain bin EV to have a think about this week. That's the Honda Prologue. Pricing is out for the 2025 model year, and it depends where you live. But if you do live in a ZEV state, and there's every chance that ZEV states may no longer be a thing in the United States going forward. I think California has filed its 23rd lawsuit against the federal government for its attempts to remove its rights to set its own clean air targets. But somewhere like California, New York, etc., you can also get other qualifications. You can stack them together. And I won't go through all of them, but it could mean up to $16,000 in incentives. And it's not just, almost the federal tax credit is the big one, but you can stack these things on top of each other. And that does bring the price down. So the Honda Prologue now starts not $47,400. And at $47,400, it's it's a vehicle that you should consider if you're a Honda fan. But if you do live in certain areas and you are applicable, you can get it for $31,400. Now, a Honda Prologue for $31,400 does seem like a bit of a bargain. What's a bigger bargain, Tom, for you? A $31,000 Honda Prologue or a $55,000 Kia EV9, which will get the seal of approval?
Probably the Prologue. I mean, I love the EV9, but the Prologue's a nice vehicle, and I see them all the time now here at the charging stations when I'm out the EVgo stations doing charge recordings. Honda must be moving these things because I'm seeing them all over, and I like it. And the interesting thing is, I like how it looks a lot better than the Blazer EV.
Yeah,
it isn't terrible, but I just like what Honda did with this. And it seems to be translating to, because customers are picking these things up even before these great prices are coming into effect. And I should have some. I'm gonna have some information on Honda with their NACS adapter, their official NACS adapter, pretty soon. I think I'm going to get a hold of the one that Honda's going to be selling, and then get a hold of a Prologue and do a video on it pretty soon. I was talking to the folks at Honda, and they're on board with that. So should have some news on when the Prologue can officially have supercharger access. It's still kind of like being used through like the GM, app. you tell the Tesla app that you have a Blazer, not a Prologue, and you can charge.
I find how much I like the look of the Prologue, and lots of people seem to like them. I don't know whether they like them because they got a deal on them. I mean, the Honda really have been, whether it's the lease pricing, the monthly pricing, these kind of deals that we talk about. There are manufacturer incentives on this car, and I forgot how much I like the look of it. And yeah, what a deal! Just over 30 grand for one of these brand new out the door. Fantastic.
Oof.
Is
What
that
was
your vacuum
that?
cleaner? You okay there, Tom?
Something went off, or something. I don't think Tom's still muted. Maybe
Oh, you're on mute, Tom. We can't hear you.
is Tom on mute?
I muted it because I have
Yeah.
landscaping work being done like right outside the window here. So I'll be
Okay.
quiet for a minute while the blower
Okay, no worries.
gets finished.
I heard your phone blowing up earlier. I was like, oh,
I love it. I love it.
Oh, you did?
yeah, a little. Bzz, 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 bzz.
Okay, vibrating because I have it on mute, but it's right by
Right.
the mic, so you heard the vibrating.
Yeah.
Oh, the blower guy's coming back. I better mute myself.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Okay,
Okay.
right. Let me get into just having looked at the comments to see if I've missed anything in here, but I don't think I have. Someone saying if Martin saw an EV9 where he is, I'd have to call it Godzilla. Yeah, they are big. There is a big vehicle over here in the land of smaller vehicles. You do notice one because they are quite large, but there we go for what it is, but not ridiculously large. If I see someone's imported a F-150 or something and they're driving that around, then yeah, they do look properly comical on our roads. They just I think I've told the story before. Last time I was in the US, I had a Model X on as a loaner from Tesla, and I was driving around Miami roads, and I felt like I was an absolute minnow, and I just forgotten how big vehicles are. I was like, oh my gosh, these trucks are huge. I'm driving a Model X, over here is a big vehicle. I thought, I'm in a little go-kart here. Right, let's talk about a vehicle that I doubt you guys are going to get, but Renault have been doing, obviously, EV things for a very, very long time. Renault-Nissan Alliance and things like the Renault Zoe, Nissan Leaf, going back in the day. So one of the original players in the world of electric vehicles. Now, Renault have their sporty bit, and that'll be the Alpine. Now, what is Alpine for? That's a very good question. Now, look, it's nice to have. So it certainly allows Renault to sell more expensive vehicles. It allows them to play in the sporty space. They renamed their Formula One team Alpine, for instance. So they're trying to get some creds there for being quick. Now, the Alpine 390 is what we're looking at on screen if you're doing the video version of the podcast. Launched this week, A390 is built on the same platform as something like a Nissan Aria, but I'll get into why it's very, very different. And you won't get this in the US because of tariffs and things like that. Now, of course, we'll get this. Alpine goes back to 1954, been part of Renault since 1973. It's come and gone, and they have persevered with it. And I think if you know Alpine, you're probably firstly a car girl or a car guy. And if you're into them, you're kind of into them for a reason. How much this will cross over, as it were, into the mainstream, it's all TBC. There's been a small combustion-powered A110 for about 10 years now. It's the A290 is their version of the Renault 5, and this is their second EV. The A390 is billed as a Porsche Macan competitor, like Tom's driving the Macan this week, but this is smaller. This is a lot shorter. Oh, and it's a lot lower because they won't call this an SUV. They call it a sport fastback. The press materials were very much not calling this an SUV this week. But what is interesting is this thing is a three-motor. It's a tri-motor configuration, and it's certainly the only one that we can get at this price point. Obviously, there's Rivian and Tesla Model S Plaid, but it's a tri-motor with two motors on the rear axle. So with a motor controlling a rear wheel, you can then do interesting things with the speed of each rear wheel. It can pull you around the corner. You can do torque vectoring. It sits on the AMPR or Ampere medium platform. So yes, Nissan Aria, Renault Megane, I think. The base version of this is the GT, around 400 horsepower, 0 to 62, 4.8 seconds. More powerful version GTS, tri-motor, almost 500 horsepower, 0 to 62 in 3.9, 89 kilowatt hour battery. WLTP, depends on wheels and stuff like that, up to 345. They gave us the 15 to 80%. Come on, car makers, just do 10 to 80. even if it shows you with your pants down, just give us 10 to 80. They didn't. 15 to 80 is 25 minutes. Now, it peaks at 190 kilowatts, but it's all about the curve. If you had that on your bingo card for this week, you can tick that one off now. It's all about the charge curve. Pricing, not TBC. Look, we think this will start at £70,000 in the UK. So, two ways of looking at this. If you're into Alpine, and you know what Alpine is, and like I say, this is not wildly different to a Macan, but it's smaller. It's a small vehicle. It's very much not a big SUV. Then if you're into this, then 70 grand will get you something that you are never going to see another one on the road. On the other hand, are you driving a £70,000 Renault? That's the question for Alpine. And I guess it's how they sell it, how they market it, how they pitch it. But there's no doubt, I think you get a huge amount of tech with 3 motors. And they've obviously, it is on the same platform as an Alpine, as a Renault Megane, but they have completely reworked the chassis. It's meant no one's driven it yet. So lots of people saying, it's a Nissan Aria, you put lipstick on a pig. That's really unfair because no one's driven it yet. But yeah, we'll get it. Sadly, you guys won't. I think they've done well with the color as well, which always helps. It's Alpine blue, but I think this thing looks great. I've not seen the interior shots crop up on our screen yet. If you're watching the YouTube version, if you know the inside of current Renaults, it's very, very similar. It doesn't feel very 70 grand, but
Really?
lots of people who drive Renault Meganes might actually like what the inside looks like. Yeah. Again, playing in this territory, you're going to have, if you talk about sport, what do they call it? A fast sportback. Oh, there's the interior. So apart from the flat bottom steering wheel, and it's quite thick and it looks quite chunky steering wheel as well, like a racing steering wheel. Oh, and they've got the OV button. So if you can on the screen see a little red thing on the right-hand side of the steering wheel, it's got OV written on it. It's the overtake button. It gives you 10 seconds power boost. Apart from that, I was looking very Renault inside. I don't know. I'm really on the fence about this. It's a lot of money, and that's the base bike starts at 70. It probably depends how it drives, doesn't it? I think if you want one, you want one, and you'll get one. And a lot of people say to me about my Polestar, like, what's that? I go, oh, it's a Volvo. And they go, oh. And I guess if you owned one of these, and they go, what's that? You'd have to go, it's a Renault. And they'd go, oh, okay. 70 grand later. What do you guys think of this?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Like I don't really know. I think I like the other one better. What's it called? The one based on the Renault 5. It's like a proper little hot hatch kind of thing. This is like bigger and it's kind of stubby, and it does that weird. It's got a really high belt line, but also a low greenhouse. So it's kind of it's almost like it's got a chopped roof. From back in the day, customized. People used to customize cars and like bring the roof line down. So it's got, I don't know. And the numbers aren't like crazy good. I mean, like we've just spoke about, it's, numbers aren't necessarily everything. And I bet you it should have pretty decent feel if it's going to go up against the Macan. Tom's been driving that, so he can tell you, how that feels, compared to, a typical kind of car. I don't know if it can live up to that sort of thing. I'm trying to maybe just stop the screen sharing, I guess. There we go.
Yeah. But again, if you are spending it, so if you are in Macan territory, Polestar 3 territory, Audi Q6, I was driving behind one of those today, and man, they are nice. Territory, and you're spending 70 grand, or probably, it's maybe a business car, or you're looking at monthly payments on it, and you're not walking in with 70 grand in cash in a big bag to your Alpine dealership, then you're looking at the monthlies on this and you're thinking, yeah, but I could have a Porsche in the driveway, and that could be a Macan, which is bigger. Or I guess if you're an Alpine fan, you'll know all about Alpine and you'll absolutely love it. But to get the brand bigger than what it is at the moment, I wonder if this is the car to do it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
No one's driven it, so it could be spectacular.
Yeah, that's the thing with
Or this is 10 grand more, Tom. Tom, this is 10 grand more than an Ioniq and Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which is
Yeah.
bigger than this as well. And that's, again, re-engineered. It's got a wider track and it's a proper beast. Anyway, sorry, Tom. That's 10 grand less than this.
That's the point that I was going to make, and specifically, I was thinking while I was watching the whole thing, if this was 10,000 less, it would be where it needs to be, I think. But where it's priced at now, it's competing with the heavyweights, and you know, I don't know if it does in that price lot. I think it looks pretty cool. I'd like to see it in person. I do like the curved just center display towards the driver. I really like that when the driver gets the priority and the screen is angled towards you, and it looks like you don't have to reach very far to negotiate that. It has some nice features. It doesn't do anything, I think, exceptionally well, but it'd be interesting to drive it. I just think it's $10,000 too much. I think if it was 10,000 less, we could be like, wow, this is nice for what you can get it for. But like you mentioned, it's going up against some of the heavyweights in that class, and I don't know if it can carry that. So
Right. It doesn't have it's not an 800 volt platform either, right? It's
right.
So I don't. So let me just pull up this real quick. So this is the other Alpine. So this brand was supposed to come in 2027 to the US, but now they're saying maybe the end of the decade. So I don't know, 2029, 2030. So the cars could change over the next 4. I mean, we could be in the refresh territory by that point if it gets here. But this is the one that I think I like more. It's a small city car. I'm not sure how it works with the price, but I think it looks great. It looks better than I prefer to the Renault that it's based on.
Yeah,
Sorry?
100% right on this vehicle because it's not crazy expensive. And this will put a smile on your face every time you drive it. And it's not rip your face off fast, but the Alpine A290 is ridiculously fun. You are so in touch with the road on these. And the Renault 5 is also a brilliant vehicle. Renault 4 got pricing this week in the UK by about 30 grand, by the way, bit under, bit over on spec. Renault 5 is a bigger number, but a smaller price. And the Renault 5 is already great, and that will set you back not much more than 20 grand. And very, very good, if not stellar monthly pricing, because it's still a new vehicle, so Renault haven't really hit the offers yet on that, but they will, let it get over its novelty value of being new, and then Renault have always got pretty good offers on. But this A290, you're absolutely right, Dom. You will just feel good driving it, and surely that's what we should have cars for, is to enjoy driving them. Man, this is great. And did you just call it an Alpine?
Sorry, yeah, I say Alpine. Alpine
Canadian.
Is weird. It's Alpine,
it's a French company.
Alpine est... je dis ça en français, c'est Alpine, mais...
Sorry, just showing.
Je suis anglais.
Yes.
What's the size of this A290, Martin, compared to like a Fiat 500? It's
a bit bigger, yeah.
A bit bigger. So is it smaller than a Volvo EX30?
Yes. Again,
that's a small car.
No, it's like the Jeep Avenger that we have, which is a pretty small car. It always looks bigger in pictures, but it is actually a pretty small car. And in the Renault 5 Turbo version of this, they've taken out the rear seats as well, because they put, I think maybe even in-wheel motors on the rear rack. It's a rear-wheel drive thing, the stupid thing that's like 350,000 that they're making. And they can afford to just take out the rear bench seat and just put engineering in it. So it is a small vehicle. The Renault 4 is bigger, and that's the one that comes with a canvas top as well. There aren't too many EVs with open roofs that fully open. Renault 4 will start at about 28,000, which is 35 grand for you, I suppose, and go to about 32, 34, I guess. But yeah, this is like it's such a cool car. Like the little one is brilliant. That's it. Like that and a big truck or a van would be a great 2-car driveway. And I bet you'd take this 9 times out of 10.
It reminds me of my Spark. It's a bit quicker than my Spark, and I thought that had plenty of power. Like in a small car, you don't need. I feel like you really don't need the 3 seconds 0 to 60. 5 seconds is great. 6 seconds. I think this is a little over 6. Also, I think fine. I think my Spark was 7 and a little bit, but it felt great. I could, and off the at the stoplight. That's really where it really counts in city
Yeah,
driving.
anything like 40 or 50 miles an hour, pretty much any EV is going to just light up.
Yeah, and yeah, and the small. It's just so this looks like a little bit bigger than the Spark, and but about the right size. I feel like for a fun city car.
Nick Ramo, who is EV Nick, who has been on the show before, who got me my
Awesome.
Polestar from auction. There's a video on my channel of me stood next to it. Yeah, but also Nick is also like 3 feet tall, so you have to. If you do watch that, then make allowances. Make allowances, of course. So we're almost done. One little bit of news to mention this week, and yeah, absolutely. If you are watching the video version of this on YouTube, and you're doing the live chat. Firstly, have you got your XP, whatever that's all about? YouTube have started giving you points or something. I feel like I'm learning a language on Duolingo or something. I'm getting little rewards every time I make a comment. It's going, ding, more XP
Oh,
for
really?
you. Oh, okay. And so congratulations if you've got some points for leaving a comment on the live chat. Did it make you live chat more? Would it make you hit the like button more? If you are watching the video version, hit the like button. Really helps us spread the word about the Batteries Included podcast. We are here live every Friday morning, US time, Friday afternoon in UK and Europe, and we will we'll always see you here on a Friday and some midweek shows as well. Before we go, we had some news this week. The Korea Economic Daily reporting that GM's 2 main battery suppliers, LG Energy and Samsung SDI, are bringing LFP battery production to the United States. Now, that's true. It does beat out Ford. They're meant to be building a LFP packs by licensing CATL's technology, but well, we'll wait and see what happens there. I think the Chinese are the flavor of the month right now.
It's a whole political blow up over that situation. So and it's been pretty quiet since then.
It's a great idea, by the way, to say
Yeah, it's brilliant.
CATL's technology.
Definitely.
But there we go. The 2 battery companies are going to set up production in existing plants, or let's bearing in mind that at the minute, I know that the US is really winding back all the kind of green investment as quickly as it can. I think you can probably tell, I'm a little disappointed by that. You won't be surprised to hear as I do an EV podcast. What will be, will be. I guess, long term, we know the direction we're heading. It's a speed bump rather than a line in the sand, but still, it's a shame. The new Chevy Bolts, which we haven't seen yet, but we should see by the end of the year. Well, that'll come with an LFP pack, won't it? Because they want to get the price down low. But if production hasn't started in the US, it'll be using imported batteries, at least for now. But yes, LFP batteries in the Silverado EV coming as well. Hey, we haven't talked about the Bolt, have we, Tom? Too much. New Bolt. I guess they've just kind of gone to ground as they're doing their final validation on that vehicle. I don't know.
It's supposed to be out by the end of the year, and we're in June now, so it's the end of the year is coming. So it's interesting. I hope let's see what happens. I hope it doesn't get delayed with everything that's going on here now, and investment seems to be getting pulled out. Ford was complaining yesterday about they might pull back on their battery plant now if things seem to go in the direction that they're heading now. Their LFP battery plant in Michigan is going to cost jobs, so I think they're trying to rattle the chain a little bit and say, hey, understand there's consequences to what we're doing here, and those consequences are job losses. So let's see what happens. There's still time to potentially save the tax credit for just to keep the can down the road a little bit. Perhaps change it to say it reduces in 2026 from 7,500 down to 4,000, and the next year it goes away or whatever. There's an opportunity still to have it live on in some other form for at least another year, and then as long as it's not dead, it can be changed, it can be extended, and we were talking to Mike Murphy about that last week, and we're hopeful that it's possible that there could be something, because just killing it and at the same time adding the road taxes, it's going to have a tangible effect on investment for the U.S. automakers here, or for all automakers and battery manufacturing plants and so forth, and that could, I mean, if GM's has to import, they were banking on, using their own cells here. If they have to import the battery cells, that changes the whole dynamics of the price structure. The Bolt was supposed to be, a long range, affordable electric vehicle under $30,000. And, if it comes in now and it's, they got to sell it at 37.5. Now it's not what they had promised, and it's not going to do well. The entry level EV has to be a $30,000 car. We need 30,000 and under EVs for mass sales, and the economics doesn't work if you have to import those cells and there's no tax credit.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be, I mean, 6 months, the next six to the end of this year, very, very dynamic, and we don't know what the future is going to look like for the US EV industry. I mean, look, long term, we know mobility is going to electric power, but it's that curve. We don't know.
There were some dire predictions on that. Oilprice.com had a report this week. I think you saw that, Martin.
Yeah.
And they were saying 75% less battery production in the US than what we were expecting to have. And then EV sales down 40%. Pretty dire stuff. We don't. It seems like it might be a little bit too pessimistic. Hopefully, yeah. But I guess we're going to find out. I guess, right?
I'm hoping it's a case of tell everybody it's going to be awful,
right,
then make it not so awful, and then take credit for it not being quite as bad as you originally said. So I'm hoping this is a little bit of shock and awe. And at the end of the day, we end up in a sensible place. I'm hoping. One of our great commenters, Crazy Postman, saying companies shouldn't rely on government money. Build a product people want at a price they can afford. It's a self-solving problem. Yeah, I get that. I get if we all lived in a perfect world, I get it. But fossil fuels are subsidized to the end of the world. The oil industry didn't back the current incumbent of the White House with hundreds of millions for no reason, because the fossil fuel industry is massively subsidized. So I get it. I know what you're saying. Like, remove all subsidies and make good stuff. Now, this week in China, we've got to go. But this week in China, BYD dropped their already low prices. Like, the price war in China is brutal. It's just like there's, people are buying cars from car manufacturers. They're just going bust the next day. It's survival of the fittest. You can think what you think about the way they did it, which was to have hundreds of EV companies and let probably 4 or 5 are going to make it. That's the way China wanted to do it. And they've been doing it since the turn of about 2001. And so BYD, which is a price war already, dropped their prices by up to 30%. So that little Seagull, which was the first one below $10,000 equivalent, best-selling car, is now $7,500 equivalent. The car that they sell up against the Model 3, forget which one that is. Somebody in the comments will know. Seal, is it? Like, that got cheaper by 30% this week. Like, not 5 or 10%. But so I totally agree. If we remove all subsidies, if governments don't start funding it, if China wasn't, handing out cheap loans and making the state buy all the cars and all that kind of stuff, I totally get it. Yeah, 100%. But and of course, what's happened in the US has, in a way, driven Europe and China closer, and all those conversations which were maybe a little bit feisty of we don't want your cheap Chinese cars here, thank you very much. Certainly in the EU, the UK has always been trying to play everyone off against everyone else, and we're just trying to keep everyone happy. What's happened is that the EU and China have now restarted those talks with a vengeance and saying, okay, well, maybe you can build the Chinese cars on European soil and sell them that cheap here, right? So European jobs, crazy
fair
cheap
compromise, right?
Right, and we'd end up with like a 2-tier system of just a bunch of cars you wouldn't get. So I didn't mean for that to be a rant, but I don't want the US to be like 5 years behind the rest of the world, even though you might say, yeah, but are you happy driving the Chinese cars for various reasons? So I get all that as well. Holy moly, we're 2 minutes late, but we got there in the end. Thank you for watching this week. Are we doing a midweek show this week, Dom? Should we do a battery bargains, used car finder?
I believe we have a couple letters waiting for us, so we should try to put together a battery bargains episode next week. Yes.
Brilliant. All right. And Tom, you've got to give that Macan back, at some point.
Yeah, well, I'm charging them rent until they come pick it up. So I'm having my cake
Story.
and eating it too.
When are your videos on the Macan coming up?
I don't know, Dom. I have
Okay.
they're mostly all shot.
No pressure.
Range test will be first before the charging because they take me a while to put together with all the charts and graphs. Range test this week for sure will come out. The
Okay.
70-mile-an-hour range test, and then
Sweet.
the one comparing it to Pete's 80-mile-an-hour drive probably a week later. So I think the Emporia Charger review is next, and then the Taycan Macan range test after that.
Nice.
Oh, nice. All right.
That all looks good. Okay. Another one in the books. We'll see you midweek, hopefully.
Thanks
Thank you for
for-
joining us. If you joined us live, thank you for the comments as well. Some brilliant comments on last week's video from Mike. He is a stellar guest, by the way. He's always welcome back. He manages to tread that political tightrope and do it all with absolute elegance and poise, and so eloquent as well. So some lovely comments on last week's show for Mike. If you have any comments or questions on this week's show, leave them on maybe the YouTube comment section, your social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, then you can give us a thumbs up, and that helps spread the word about what we do here every Friday. Hit subscribe and the bell icon to get your notifications. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again very soon. Hey, Dom, say ciao.